Hey all, it's Joe from Walk with God. In today's video, I have an update for you guys. But first, as part of the update, I want to address the recent suicide of Jared Wilson. He was a youth pastor and an advocate for suicide prevention and fighting depression. He was 30 when he took his life just now, and he left behind a wife and 2 children, both of whom I'm praying for, as you should be too, and there is actually GoFundMe for them that I'll link in the comments as well as in the description. I've been trying this year to get better about talking about Christian news, and this is just me expressing some love that I have for this family that I've never met. But I care about this, and I care about them especially as members of God's family. Anyways, part 2 of this video is actually going to tie in very well to this part. Recently, I got to take my board exam that I've been studying for full time, and it's really hard to know how I did, but I do know that afterwards I was exhausted, and I'd been wanting to take a vacation for a while, so I did just that. This is why last week I didn't have a video, even though I posted on Walk with Godgram that I would be taking a vacation. Feel free to follow Walk with Godgram if you are not already. I post amusing things there. For my vacation, I drove a good 10 hours all the way up to Vancouver and spent a lot of time in Portland and Salem. During my time in Portland, I did get to help out a couple of homeless people, but their situation didn't really hit me while I was there. So I get back, and the next day I start cleaning my apartment, I go to the dentist, I get a massage because of all the tension that I've been holding in me over the years. I got to discuss Marvel and Star Wars with the dentist technician and go grocery shopping. And then I went to prayer last night, and we listened to a message by Francis Chan. If you don't know this from my previous videos, Francis started the house churches that I am a part of. I've personally met him, and more I'm realizing that he may actually be the Christian alive today that I admire most. He makes so much money off of his hotel, off of his books. He doesn't take any money from his preaching, and yet he gives almost everything that he makes from his books and from his hotel to the poor and trying to end human trafficking. And he doesn't make any money from his preaching, which I think is the thing that he does the most. So the point of his preaching in this clip was that we in this country have so much. 50% of the world lives in just abject poverty on less than $2 a day. So I live in the Silicon Valley Bay Area, about 45 minutes south of San Francisco. And because of that, I'm in about 1%, the top 1% of the world, probably closer to 0.5%. You know, I've got a roof over my head, rings on my fingers, I've got food, and I can do things like go to my dentist appointment. So finally, the state of the homeless people that I helped out in Portland really hit me. Here and there, I pray to God that He would expose my sin, and once again, He answered, because He helped me to realize just how indulgent I have been lately. And worse than that, I, like many Christians, have not been fulfilling the commands of God to really help out the poor. So I looked up verses on helping out the poor, and there's a lot, so I'll just share with you a few of them. You got Micah 6:8 as well as Proverbs 3:27-28. You got Proverbs 14:21 as well as 31:8-9. Psalm 146 verses 5-9. Isaiah 1:17. Isaiah 58 verses 6-11. Romans 12:13. 1 John 3:17. Luke 14:14, Deuteronomy 15 verses 4-5 and 10-11. And yeah, I left out many verses. Jesus said it is better to give than to receive, but most of us, including many believers, don't live as if we actually believe this. And that very much includes me. So last night in our prayer meeting, I was in despair over this, especially because I hear this message again and again, and I keep forgetting it again and again. I go back to my indulgent lifestyle and get caught up in my little bubble, and I worry about all these first world problems. Yes, it makes sense to worry about my student debt, but the only reason I have it is because I was able to get a great education for a great career path. And all this led to my realization that another prayer was being answered, my prayer to have better gratitude. And I'm still working on exactly how to live this out, as well as figuring out how I can live with a better perspective and give more generously moving forward. And so that I can stop worrying so much about these inconsequential first world problems. You know, the death of Jared Wilson shows that life is short. Just because you don't feel suicidal doesn't mean that you can't die from a car accident or from from a mugging. He was 30 years old and I'm 27. You know, if you do the math and you give $20 a month to someone, you can get them 2 meals at a Chipotle and have change left over. And yes, that's $240 a year, but think about it. If you're making $10,000 a year, that's 2.5, not even percent of what you make in a year. If your entire immediate neighborhood did the same thing, you could easily house and feed a couple of people for a month. And I would encourage you guys to think about how you can go about doing this, as I also think about how I can go about helping people better. Because if you are watching this, you have it better than you realize. Now, I can't tell you what to do with your money, but I can encourage you by saying that there are many ways that you can help people. How you do it is however the Lord leads you, but especially if you are a Christian, you should be doing this. God has been showing me lately that I need to be using this channel to help people come back and actually obey Christ. Because if we love God, we will keep His commandments, and we are not keeping these commandments about giving to the poor. And it would be a sin for me to not say anything about this. Okay, bit of a heavy video today, but thank you so much for watching through all that. Please remember to subscribe to my channel and check out my many social media outlets linked in the description below, but I would so much rather that you guys give to the poor than check out any of that, because it is not about me, it is not about you, it is about serving God and serving one another in love, and how you respond to the call, not my call, but the calling of God that is calling very loudly through these people who are suffering, reflects very much on your heart. So thank you again for watching, and have a blessed day or a blessed night, remembering that you really are blessed.
And I don't normally do afterthoughts, but an idea that I came up with was writing a couple of little reminders to myself around the places where I spend the most time in my apartment. Just reminding myself, you know, I'm part of the 1%. I have things good, relatively speaking, and all of my problems are pretty first world. So that's a practical idea that you guys can take up to remember, at least, and do a better job than I've been doing of remembering that you have it pretty well. And then the next part is going to be the taking the action, right? So we'll see what happens from there.